Hey, did you guys know that Sym-Bionic Titan is coming back?
What? Really?
No, I just thought you would enjoy that for a moment.
The 2010s were a weird time for animation. It kind of felt like anything, no matter how weird or ambitious, had a chance to get a green light. Cartoons that would define the generation like Adventure Time and Gravity Falls were just starting, and as a whole, it seemed like cartoons were starting to get more experimental, because the style of that era hadn't really been defined yet. We were getting mini-series, continuation to shows that had long ended. This, sadly,
He's orange, he has a lot of friends. They live together on a fruit stand.
Not happy. I hate it here.
But what I remember the early 2010s for most of all is as the last dying breath of action cartoons. If you were a fan of the ye olde violence, this was your era. So many cool, clever, unique action shows came out around this time. Generator Rex, Ben 10 Omniverse, Thundercats, TMNT 2012, Batman Brave and the Bold, Young Justice, the list goes on and on. Even Disney, arguably the wimpiest of the big three networks, cranked out gems like Motor City and Tron Uprising. Nature was finally healing. It truly seemed like action cartoons would make a comeback and prove themselves to be more than just the toy commercials of the 80s. Like the natural progression of them had finally caught up. But sadly, this action renaissance would not last. Almost every show that I just named would go on to have a tragically short life, cut down just when they were getting going. Sometimes it was ratings, sometimes it was merch sales, sometimes it was because it was only meant to be a tie-in to another bigger thing that failed. Whatever the reason, these shows were dropping like flies, and with this being my favorite genre of cartoon, it really hurt to see. But amongst the Thundercats and the Motor Cities, there was one cartoon that I think stood above them all. A show that oozed quality, style, and freshness down to its very core. A show that I think finally bridged that gap between children and adult animation. And that show was Sym-Bionic Titan.
Genius. It goes ba-bum, ba-bum, bum, click, bum, ba-bum, ba-bum, bum, click, bum.
We need more bad guys to smash.
Bum, click, bum. I be Lord of the Rings, I manifest. Represent from the den, I don't wear no vest. I got a heart in my chest, it goes ba-bum, ba-bum. I sway halfway, the day's hump, get over. I be Lord of the Rings, I manifest.
I'll put a shot to your
sister. I don't wear no vest. I got a heart in my chest, it goes ba-bum, ba-bum. I sway halfway, the day's hump, get over. One out the ring, so now you got...
In a distant galaxy, the planet Galaluna lies in ruin.
You'll pay for this, I swear it.
Its only hope for a future, forced into exile on a tiny backwater world called Earth.
This is to be our new home.
Now, a princess, her soldier, and their robot must face the most difficult test of their lives. High school.
Salutations.
Sym-Bionic Titan was a show that premiered in 2010 on Cartoon Network, and man, you do not understand how excited I was when I first saw the promo for it. It felt big, epic, and most of all, mature. Not in like your standard gross way that people think mature cartoons have to be, but like in the way it was presented. The precision of the art, the cinematic feeling that would be just as much as home in a theater. It was nuts that something like this was premiering. I was just getting over the PTSD of seeing Real. I didn't know I could love again. The nightmares of Andrew WK had only just begun to fade. I had kinda made the switch to anime at this point, and once Toonami pulled the plug in 2008, I would only only occasionally pop my head back into Cartoon Network for Ben 10 and Brave and the Bold. But with regular show and Adventure Time premiering, I slowly came back around to Western cartoons. And with that, Cartoon Network as well. And I'm glad I did, because if I hadn't, I would have missed out on Sym-Bionic Titan. A lot of people always lump this one in with Genndy Tartakovsky's other shows: Samurai Jack, The Good Clone Wars, don't at me, Dexter's Lab, and Primal. But it actually has 3 creators. Of course you have Genndy, our Lord and Savior, but you also have Brian Andrews and Paul Rudish, 2 other legends in the animation industry, with Brian having worked on amazing shows like My Life as a Teenage Robot, even writing the hour-long special Escape from Cluster Prime, one of my fave episodes. And Paul Rudish, who's responsible for the new fantastic Mickey Mouse shorts. Seriously, if you haven't seen them by now, you're missing out, dude. But anyway, one day Genndy was playing with his son and he was looking for something to watch, when eventually they settled on the Godzilla movie. Genndy's son was instantly hooked, and as they watched together, Genndy realized that he was super into it too, and memories of giant monsters and Ultraman and stuff like that came flooding back to him. So he started talking with Brian and Paul, and together, they came up with the idea of a sort of show that would combine the giant robots and monsters of tokusatsu with the coming-of-age teen drama stylings of stuff like The Breakfast Club and other John Hughes movies.
And so for us, it was really important to bring in this really strong character element, and we kind of went back to John Hughes. You know, we grew up, you know, with The Breakfast Club and 16 Candles, you know, with those types of films, and we wanted to do, you know, we've done the Dexter's Lab type comedy where it's a little bit more, you know, cartoony. So this was kind of more real in a way, even though it still gets silly and stuff. We wanted it to be still cartoony acting, but because we were, you know, this is a little bit of an older show for us, probably, you know, maybe a little even older than what we did in Clone Wars. So we wanted it to have more real emotions and more real drama that the kids go through. So we do some pretty serious stuff about, you know, relationships and how they progress and all that kind of stuff, real feelings. And I think that's what elevates the action to a new level.
In their heads, they thought that by framing the action with strong character writing and development, that the two sides would enhance each other. And I agree. The reason I love action cartoons so much is that they have the most engaging characters to me. There's nothing more relatable than fighting for your life. So when you see these characters risking it all, it's easy to get attached. And when you're in the quiet moments, it's nice to see how the characters are outside of battle. And because you've grown so attached to them, seeing them do more mundane things hits a whole lot harder. It's why my favorite parts of Dragon Ball Super weren't the fights or the world-changing events. It was just seeing the characters hang out.
Satan punch!
Oh! I forgot my tractor!
And I think that these guys really tapped into that when making Sym-Bionic Titan. But what is this show about? Let's get into that.
Get her out of here! Now!
Sym-Bionic Titan is the story of 3 characters. Alana, the princess of an alien world, Lance, a soldier in service to the crown of that world, and Octis, a highly advanced robot that is tasked with watching over them. After war breaks out on their planet, the king, who looks like the coolest version of Santa Claus ever, sends his daughter to a far-off planet to keep her safe, because as long as she is alive, hope will remain alive as well. Lance and Octis are sent to protect her, and as the planet falls, the 3 are rocketed towards a brand new life on a brand new planet, Earth.
Really? But there's an A in it. I'm just going to keep calling it ER.
Once they get there, they all do their best to blend in and assimilate with human society, which means that they have to acquaint themselves with some of the scariest things on the planet.
Teenagers.
So they come up with new names, a new home, and they start their new lives posing as a family, with Lance and Alana posing as a brother and sister, and Octis posing as their dad, and maybe their brother? They never really confirm it since they never say if Octis has the same fake last name as them, but like, he's always at the house, and whenever he's there as Newton, his younger human disguise, he calls himself their family, so I guess it's safe to assume. Of course, it would be no fun if they were just blending in at high school. Nah, it's never that simple. They are being hunted and tracked. not only by the US military and the mysterious group known as G3, but they are also being pursued by the evil General Modula, a previously loyal asset to the crown that was thought to be dead, but spoilers, he's not. He's the one responsible for the fall of their home planet, Galaluna, and he won't rest until the princess is dead. Once he finds out where the trio is hiding, he begins sending monster after monster to kill them. Luckily, the crew isn't defenseless, as they can basically activate BKM from But Ugly Martian. Anyone remember that nightmare of a show? If you didn't, you do now, and you're welcome for that.
Oh, hey, fuck you.
Sadly, their armored modes don't seem to be enough to handle this bigger threat. That is, until Octis kicks into action, absorbing the two of them and forming a giant robot. The robot is dubbed Titan, and using its power, Alana, Lance, and Octis combine to protect the Earth from the threat of the General, all while navigating the troubles that high school life brings them, while the rebellion rages on their home planet. And that's basically the setup for the show. It's half tokusatsu films, half 80s teen movies, with a splash of Gindi, Brian's, and Paul's personal touch for flavor, and you would be surprised at how beautifully it comes together. From the art, to the direction, to the writing, to the characters, it all blends together seamlessly into a great experience. Every episode has something new to see, and you never know what you might get. One minute you'll be watching Star Wars, and the next is Tokyo Drift. They juggle all these different tones and settings brilliantly, and somehow it just feels so cohesive. I always get worried when shows split their genre because it always feels like one side gets neglected. I really love Owl House, but I can't say I'm not disappointed that for a comedy horror, the horror part feels pretty lackluster. It's like horror LaCroix, I only get a hint of it, but Titan puts its whole giant foot into the stuff it tackles. When it's time for action, it's gonna feel like you're getting your butt kicked. When it's time for school stuff, you get flashbacks. It's good stuff all around, but when you have something this good, you know it's not gonna last. After only one season, Cartoon Network sadly pulled the plug on this show, with barely any warning. And then for good measure, they gave it the old Megas XLR treatment, and wrote it off for tax reasons, pretty much ruining any chance of it ever coming back.
We reserve the right to refuse service to robots.
You know, cause I can't ever have anything. The show at least got released on iTunes, and for a while it was on Netflix, and it even re-aired on Toonami for a bit, which gave a little hope to idiots like me. But no, I'm pretty sure it's gone for good. But it was such a special show, and today, I want to go over what made it so special. So first things first, let's dive into the characters.
Salutations, friends. I am honored to be here in this fine institution, where I know our friendship will blossom, and the bonds of social segregation will give way to unite us as one.
Doofus.
Throughout the show, one of the major themes is a proverb from the main character's home planet. Heart, body, and mind join as one. And if there's any character that represents heart in this show, it's Alana. Alana is the princess of Galaluna. She's honest, hardworking, and earnest to a fault. So, in other words, nerd! Alana is the most gung-ho about the move to Earth, wanting to learn more about the culture here, and doing her best to make as many friends as possible. And if you've been to high school, you know how well that kind of thing goes.
Hi! Ew!
Being a princess, she's a little more prim and proper than the usual girl, and that pretty much throws everyone around her for a loop. They think she's weird or trying to show off, which usually leads to her being more towards the bottom of the social ladder. But it's kind of refreshing to see a character so unabashedly herself. I mean, just look at the way she dresses. She's the only main character whose outfit changes from episode to episode, and her outfits range from pretty good to really cute to nice.
Nice. Nice. Nice.
But gotta remember, she's a goober, so they can't all be winners. Her first outfit definitely was not a crowd pleaser. out here looking like a pack of fruit-striped gum with even less flavor. She's a strict believer in justice and in getting people the treatment they deserve, regardless of the way she's treated. Does that mean she doesn't want to be popular? Heck no, she's a princess. She wants to be loved. She tries to change the menu for her school, join the cheerleaders, and even gets in with the prom committee. However, most of these attempts to fit in are met with apathy or straight up scorn. Remember, this is high school after all. I think the show actually does a really good job at portraying a stylized version of high school. Remember, one of the big influences of this show were John Hughes movies. If you've ever seen one of them, then you know the way he portrays his characters are basically a heightened version of the way that you might remember that time of your life. Everything might not be accurate, but it's embellished in such a way that you feel like it was right. Like, if you think about what a goth girl looked like back then, you might think of something like this, when in reality it was probably more like this. But because our brains tend to romanticize the past and enhance our memories, the more exaggerated version feels just as accurate, if not more. That's why all these teen movies have all the same stereotypes. Most people had the exact same type of experience.
I am the token black guy. I'm just supposed to smile, stay out of the conversation, and say things like, damn, shit, and that is whack.
Unless you're me and went to all-black school your entire life. I remember I did like a school exchange thing, which again, sounds like something you would see in a cartoon, but it's real, I swear. It was crazy walking around that school. I felt like I stepped into an episode of Degrassi, pre-Drake.
That is not gangster. That's very not gangster.
I was going nuts, just like pointing out stuff. Whoa, there's a ginger. Cool, goth kid. I remember the principal was British, and I kept making him say stuff because I was just so fascinated. I was not invited back. But yeah, that exaggerated high school life is shown in full force in Titan. Nerds, jocks, cheerleaders, and everything in between are shown here. And Alana makes it her mission to connect with all of them. Sometimes it works out, but most of the time she pretty much just ends up back where she started. But she picks herself up and keeps trying. Can't break that royal spirit. In fact, that's one of the reasons that her father made sure that she stayed safe. She is the hope of her people. As long as she's alive, her subjects have a reason to keep on fighting, because she always did her best for them. Treating them like family, she did as much as she could for her planet. It was never afraid to get her hands dirty for her people, or for any people really. She can be a little overzealous, which can lead to some serious cringe.
Text 1279 and the battle will be won. Lance, don't!
Stop. Just stop.
But even if she gets a little confused, she's got the spirit, and that's all that matters. And she's not just limited to diplomatic issues either. She can handle herself in a fight too. She's super athletic, trained in combat, and a master at piloting her armor, the Chorus. A lightweight armor that focuses on shields and energy weapons. It would have been super easy to make her the damsel in distress, but for the most part, Alana never loses her agency. It's really nice to see a strong female character that still manages to indulge in more traditionally feminine traits. I am trying very hard to word that carefully, please don't cancel me. I just got the hang of this YouTube thing. But really, this might be one of my favorite Tara Strong roles. Most of the time she's either screaming or playing like little boys. So it's nice to see her just kind of sound like a person for once. She delivers some pretty touching lines here and there, and her performance gives Alana a nice kind of inner gentleness. She really is the heart of the team, and it's great seeing her bond with Lance and Octis. While things between her and Lance start off kind of rocky, they form a really nice sibling bond, and seeing her and Octis get up to stuff is never not endearing. They form a really nice family unit, which is important to her since out of all of them, she misses home the most. She doesn't even know if her father is alive or if her planet is okay. And yet, here she is, fighting for a world that she's only known for a year. It takes a strong character to fight for an adopted world, and Alana definitely fits the bill. A princess to her very core.
We have a new student joining us today, Lance Lunas.
Care to tell the class a little bit about yourself?
No.
Next up, we have Lance, who represents the body. Lance is a lot of things. He's a soldier, a rebel, a person completely irresistible to the opposite sex. Heck man, maybe more.
I don't get it.
Dark hair, bedroom eyes, moody demeanor. I totally get it.
What?
But most of all, he's someone who's used to being alone. Lance was the only son of Edward, one of Galaluna's top scientific minds. But after going through a rift gate, Lance was left alone. The king, being a close friend of Edward, decided to look after him and sent him to a military academy, because that's exactly what you do with a freshly orphaned kid. Put him to work. No time to cry while he's doing push-ups. Like, geez, did they not have one spare room at the castle? There he learned how to fight, strategize, and to never wear a shirt to bed. But things weren't always smooth sailing. He was bullied, framed, and generally had a hard time fitting into the academy. But eventually, he was proven capable enough to look after the princess when the planet started to fall. Lance starts the series kind of cold. He's only focused on keeping the princess safe, as that was the last mission left to him by the king. He doesn't care if he's comfortable or having fun. He's only focused on the mission. This leads to him and Alana butting heads quite often. She's usually focused on adapting to life on Earth, while Lance could usually care less. But as the show progresses, we learn that there is a lot more to Lance than that. He's antisocial because after losing the most important person in his life, he's not used to affection or having healthy relationships. Everything that he's ever had in his life, he's had to earn, which is why the mission is so important to him. But just because he's withdrawn, he's not a jerk. He'd just rather be left alone most of the time. In fact, the only time he's shown to be at peace is when he's either training or fighting. And boy, does he do a lot of fighting. And these fights are intense, man. The animation put on display here is nothing short of masterful. Snappy movements, strong posing, and very easy to follow. And it's not just the fight scenes. There's amazing racing parts, parkour, concerts, and this.
I'm about to bust.
Do not worry, we will get to that. All wrapped up in a style that I can't get enough of. A lot of people assume that the show is in Genndy's style, but actually it's not. While Genndy wrote and directed a lot of it, and he even storyboarded a few episodes, a lot of the credit for the art goes to Paul Reddish, Steven DeStefano, and my man Scott Willis. You can really tell that it's not Genndy since the designs are a bit more rounded than his usual affair, though both styles are pretty shape-based. The proportions also skew a bit more realistic, and the line art reeks of Paul and Steven. A lot of the background characters have this great caricature look, almost like stylized magazine clippings. So much personality packed into them, even when they're not moving. You can feel the life in them, and it's all wrapped up in the amazing background design by Scott Willis. This dude is seriously a master of his craft, and I hold him in as high regard as Genndy. The geometric backgrounds lend themselves perfectly to the more rounded, thick outlined characters, making them pop, while still feeling firmly rooted in the world. And the colors, man. For every scene, the mood is set perfectly, from sleepy suburban mornings to tense battles of life and death. And the best part is that there's so much cohesion in the world. A lot of times in animated shows, the different locations feel kind of separated, in their own little zones. But here, I have a solid understanding of where everything goes and leads into each other. You see them take the bus into the city or drive to school, locations permanently change after battles. They're set pieces, yeah, but they make perfect sense. And they look so good! If you've never seen Scott paint a background by hand, you are missing out. It's like that scene from Toy Story 2 times a million. They even managed to get the CGI looking good. 3D integration in 2D is super hard to pull off right. One wrong move and you're looking at an X-Arm situation, but they handled it here pretty well. First, they only did the machines in 3D. It's a lot harder to get organic things to look right, so they kept it to inorganic things to make sure nothing came off as uncanny. The animation was done by Orphanage Animation Studio, a 3D studio that Gendy started himself. And although much like Sym-Bionic Titan, they are no longer with us, they did a fantastic job. Keeping it cel-shaded really helped to integrate it, along with the slight outline that they gave everything. Sometimes, some of the Titan fight scenes can look a little stiff, but for the most part, it always looks amazing. There's only a couple of shows that manage to make the CGI in them look timeless, and I think that Sym-Bionic Titan is one of them. If it aired today, I don't think anyone would bat an eye. A super talented team came together to make this, cream of the crop, and a show like this deserves it. Especially with characters like Lance. As the show goes on, we learn a bit more about him as he opens up more and more to Alana and Octis. Alana breaks him out of his shell as he learns that there's more to life than just combat. You can tell that they're getting closer as he slowly stops calling her princess and just calls her Alana. It's really sweet. He even gets her a snow globe that reminds her of home. He discovers that he has a passion for cars and builds one together with Octis, leading to some really cute bonding scenes.
All that work.
It's alright. We still have this.
Why didn't you show me that before?
I wanted to eat ice sticks.
He gets into music, he even makes friends with a cute emo girl.
Can't believe you'd come to something like this.
Neither can I. You don't seem like the type either.
I guess we're soulmates.
It should have been me, not him! It's not fair!
The point is that as the show goes on, Lance becomes way more fleshed out, and it's great to see. He actually starts to have fun with his life on Earth, fun with his life in general, and it's all thanks to the found family he stumbled into with Alana and Octis. For the first time in his life, he's thinking that maybe, just maybe, he's more than just another soldier in service to the crown. He's a person with hobbies, feelings, and wants. And now, he's not just fighting because it's his job. He's fighting now because he has a new family that he'll do anything to protect.
Okay, Newton, you can take a seat at the back over there.
The answer to your equation is y equals 3 minus x.
What? Impossible.
What a fowler!
Last, but certainly not least, representing the mind, we have Octis, who's actually my favorite character in the show. A mysterious robot that was sent to Earth alongside Lance and Alana, Octis takes up the role of both their dad and their brother, Newton, which I swear isn't as bad as it sounds. Being a robot, Octis is logical, and has a bit of trouble picking up on human interactions, and tends to try and tackle things from a scientific point of view. But all of that stuff is super endearing because he genuinely cares about Lance and Alana. So, when you see him watching Nick Jr. to try and help them get along, you can't help but smile.
What's wrong, Bleezy?
What's wrong, Lance?
Even though he's a robot, he's kind of got a natural curiosity about him. He enjoys trashy teen sitcoms, popsicles, and experiencing life since he's really just brand new. Plus, his design kills me, it's so funny. Also, dude has got game, pulling down Kimmy, the head cheerleader, and the cougar next door, Barb, who's a really fun character to have around. A really fun character to have around. I don't know what Octis came equipped with, but he's gotta have some premium features if he's keeping it down like this.
The hammer!
There's actually a lot of fun side characters in this show besides the main trio. You have Steel, an army general with a bone to pick with Titan. Intensely patriotic and stubborn to a fault, he hates anything alien with a passion, especially when Titan keeps stealing the spotlight. He's usually trying to find out who they are, or fighting against them, or just trying to prove that the military is better than them. He's got a real hero complex, and he hates it when he's not the one being praised. I can relate. And rounding him out, we have Solomon, the leader of G3, a group that helps handle intergalactic threats. He's such a mysterious character, always towing the line between friend and foe to Titan. He's based on an old pulp character called Solomon Kane, and boy does he have a look. He's one of my favorite character designs in the show. Real My First OC vibes. I love edgy crap like this. Remember kids, don't kill the part of you that's cringe, kill the part that cringes. While his main goal is to protect Earth, he's not really above using Titan to get what he wants, be it information or assistance. He's backed by a mysterious figure that might actually have more of a connection to the group than Solomon lets on, or that he's aware of himself. As the show progresses though, Solomon eventually comes to have a mutual respect for Titan, seeing them as a provisional ally instead of a probable threat.
Look, I know we started off on the wrong foot, but believe me, we would like it if you stayed here with us.
All right, we'll stay.
Also, look at his little dudes. I love how they're dressed. The army wishes it had that kind of drip. Too bad they drop like stormtroopers. Oh well, looking good isn't easy. The main threat to Titan, however, is only shown occasionally. But when he's on screen, he commands your attention. General Medulla is so cool, man. Classic friend turned foe, but he does it with such style. The beard, the boots, oh don't get me started. And he's one of the most hardcore villains ever shown on Cartoon Network. You see him kill so often because it comes so easy to him, and it's not just implied, it is shown in vivid detail.
You'll never crush our spirit. We'll fight to the last man and crush you. Someday, maybe. But not today.
Wow, that's pretty hardcore. Jeez.
Whenever it flashes to him, you're reminded that while things on Earth aren't that bad yet, a planet has already fallen, and it's bad. Rebels are dying in the streets, the king has been captured and tortured, and monsters are running rampant. It paints a really good picture of how serious things are getting, and how evil that this man, or monster, really is. But back on Earth, there is one more character I want to discuss, which means it's finally time to talk about this scene.
The isosceles triangle has two congruent sides.
Shake it, bake it, booty quake it. That's right. Roll it around, don't fake it. Don't. Shake it, bake it, booty quake it.
Even if you've never seen or heard about this show before, there's a good chance that you know this scene. It's been spammed over the internet for years, and for good reasons. Imagine you were just scrolling through Cartoon Network and all of a sudden it's just Booty City.
That's a nice fat ass.
If you were like me, you were probably really excited, if not a bit confused. But I think people get the wrong idea about this scene, that it's simply fan service for fan service's sake. I mean, they definitely had fun drawing this, and I'm no one to judge. Have you seen the kind of stuff I draw? I'm proudly horny on main, but this scene is a lot more than the sum of its lady parts. Let's go over it.
Is this some kind of
You'll
joke?
never be a cheerleader. Look what you've done!
Oh, right. You live here too.
This character is Kimmy, the head cheerleader of Lance, Alana's, and Newton's high school, which makes her the queen bee. At first she's mean, manipulative, and judgmental, kind of being set up to be Alana's rival, standard mean girl trope, aka my kryptonite. And for a while, that's how she stays, until one day, she's told that she'll be kicked off the squad if her grades don't improve. Now, Kimmy is used to getting what she wants. So she goes to Newton, confident that he'll do her homework for her. But that doesn't fly with him. If she wants to improve her grade, she's gonna have to put some skin in the game herself. So he offers to tutor her. Once she gets to their house, she tries every sexy trick in the book to get him to do the work for her, including the twerk scene. But Omega Chad Newton still refuses.
No!
And this is where it gets interesting. Kimmy has never experienced this before. She's used to people doing everything for her, because she's pretty, because she's popular, and because she's always had the easy way out. She kind of stopped having faith in herself outside of being the hot cheerleader. She thinks that she's stupid, that no matter what she tries, she'll always just be the dumb, stuck-up bimbo that society expects her to be.
Look, we all have our parts to play in the social order. This is mine, ditzy airhead. There's nothing I can do to change it.
And that's what this scene is about. She's not just trying to seduce Newton because it's the easy thing to do. She's doing it because she thinks it's the only thing she can do. Social cues in high school are rough, dude. Everyone's constantly trying to fit you in a box. The things you like, the clothes you wear, even things you can't even really control like your looks, will immediately get you a label. And that label isn't always that easy to shake off. It happened to me, and I'm sure it happened to a lot of you guys too. And when you spend all this time being told what you are, it gets easier and easier to just believe everybody, to go with the flow, because it hurts way more to go against it. But this doesn't fly for Newton, and he does something for Kimmy that no one has ever done for her before.
Sometimes you try and fail, but that's what makes you stronger. You just have to be willing to give it another go and apply what you've learned. You can do it.
You know, no one has ever talked to me this way before.
Well, it's about time someone did.
He encourages her. He believes in her. He tells her that if she's willing to put in the work, he will be there to help her achieve what he knows she can. And it changes something in her, for the better. She starts to change how she acts towards people. She gets kinder, more open, and she falls for him. That scene is not just sexy for the sake of being sexy. It's a scene of a stressed out girl who thinks her only value is in the way she looks. And Newton changes that. But also, yeah, I'm into this. Pretty good. They go to prom in this show, so I'm pretty sure all of them are 18 or older. So yeah, Octis helps to make Kimmy a more well-rounded person, and I think that he does that for everyone around him, especially Lance and Alana. He becomes their guardian, a father figure for two people who have both basically lost theirs, and throughout the show, he proves that he's a lot more than just a robot. He's not quite sure what he is or what he's becoming, but he knows that the way he feels about Lance, Alana, and even Kimmy are his real feelings. And some of his scenes are the most human thing about this show. Also, back to Kimmy real quick, there's a running joke that whenever her and her two best friends hug, there's always two guys in the back doing a fist bump, and I just think that's the funniest thing ever.
I'm picking up an emergency message. It's from Solomon.
What?
What does he want?
There isn't much time. I'm running out of life support. Please help. You're the only ones who can.
Throughout the show, you see this group grow closer. They go from strangers to friends to family, and you really start to see that they really care for each other. They survive battle after battle, both physical and social. They gain friends, love interests, and allies, and all of it is possible because they're together. Heart, body, and mind join as one. But what happens when they lose one of their own? Toward the end of the series, the team receives a distress signal from Solomon, and although they are hesitant at first, they decide that a life is a life, and they want to help him. And when they get to him, they discover that him and his team were attacked by a monster that eats energy. And they also discover that whatever has its energy taken from it by the monster will be permanently shut down. Lance and Alana are immediately on guard because their friend, their family member that they have come to rely on, is now up against a serious threat, one that could take him away from them forever. But Octis knows the risk, and he convinces them to soldier on. And after a couple of close calls with it, they make it out okay. That is, until...
Lance?
Octis, wait!
This moment is one of the most powerful in the show. You see Octis get destroyed. It's violent and shocking and really uneasy, and you can feel it. And once they realize what they've lost, the scene goes silent as Lance flies into a rage. With nothing but the background music to fill it, Lance unloads everything he has at the monster, destroying it once and for all. But it's too late. Both him and Alana have lost another member of their family. After I saw this scene, I was devastated. My favorite character was gone, and Alana and Lance's new life was destroyed. It was gut-wrenching and heavy, and it felt like way more than just a simple kids show. And this pretty much changes the status quo. The two vacate their house without a word to their neighbors or friends. Even Kimmy, who had previously had a fight with Newton, leading to them splitting up, is left in the dark. They go on the run, desperate to find a way, any way, to revive Octis. Monsters are still being sent to the Earth, but with Octis gone, they can't form Titan. They even end up breaking into the military to try and steal a power source that they think will help, and it does not go well. But luckily, Solomon and the rest of G3 are there to back them up. But that doesn't change the fact that Octis is gone, and with 3 new monsters touching down on Earth, it's up to G3, the military, and Lance and Alana to stop them, when suddenly, Solomon's mysterious boss appears. When Octis finally returned, after 2.5 episodes, I was ready to burst into tears. These are characters that have lost so much, fought so hard for others for no reward, that to see them regain something that they both assumed was lost forever, it's just extremely cathartic. I don't care if it's cheesy or predictable, the emotional payoff makes up for all of that. My boy is back, and that means Titan is back. And now, better than ever. When the inside of Titan used to be shown before, you would always see Lance's and Alana's heads floating inside, along with Octis's core. But now, you see Newton's head as well. Something has changed about Titan, about Octis. It's stronger, faster, and it just seems like the bond between them is stronger than ever. And after this tearful reunion, the crew fly back home. But not before Newton shoots Kimmy a text, telling her that he'll be there soon, leaving her crying tears of joy as the scene fades to black. Alana and Lance finally at peace, and Newton smiling contently. And that's it. After 1 season, Cartoon Network decided to pull the plug. And unlike Megas, there really wasn't much info I could find out about why. Though the only concrete thing is that it was unable to secure a toy license, which really doesn't make any sense to me. You're telling me no one would have bought a Titan action figure, or the armors, or any of the super rad monster designs? I feel like toy companies would have been lining up around the block. My guess is that because the show leaned more towards the mature side, maybe kids didn't take to it as well as Cartoon Network had hoped. Maybe it was too expensive to produce. Maybe it just wasn't the kind of show they wanted to make anymore. Who knows, dude? The only thing I know is that this show was something special.
Listen, my darling. You were the heart of Galiluna. You are its future. If anything happens to you, all will be lost.
Your father sent us here for a reason.
What? To sit by and let our people, my father, fall at the feet of the Mutrati?
Tell me, where's your daughter?
I don't know.
Oh, come now. You can't expect me to believe that. After all, I can't have heirs to the throne lurking about, inciting revolt and what have you.
What kind of robot are you?
Status report, soldier.
Sir, we tracked the object to this location. Upon arriving, we came under heavy fire. It was unlike anything we ever encountered before. They were like giant metal men.
If we're going to blend in with these Earthlings, we'll need to know more about them.
I have taken the liberty of enrolling us in their computer system. You are, siblings, Lance and Alana Lunas.
What?
My pet, I call on you. Seek and destroy our enemy. Awake and fulfill our destiny.
Mutrati Megabeast. We have to do something.
How did it find us?
I don't know, but our weapons have no effect.
Engage, Sym-Bionic Titan.
Titan?
That's what the Earth people call us.
I like it.
I need a weapon.
Lance, focus. I will interface with the replication systems to see if we can fabricate one.
I wonder what else we can do.
Heart, body, and mind unite as one.
Out of despair came hope. Out of devastation came relief. And today, in our darkest hour, came a hero.
Sym-Bionic Titan was really lightning in a bottle. I'm not lying when I say that this show is my ideal when it comes to making animation. It feels like so much more than just a product, just another cartoon in a sea of faces. It really feels like art, created by a team of people who were crazy passionate about the thing they were making, and put everything they had into making it the best it could be. Not a single cut corner or out of place line. I don't think I even spotted one animation error. And when I say team, I mean team. This show had nothing but masters of the craft working on it, even outside the 3 creators, and they had plans for it. 10 more scripts were written for episodes that were never produced, as stated in a now deleted sci-fi article by Gindi. And even though I've been singing its praises to high heaven, none of the creators were entirely satisfied with it. They thought that once season 2 came around, it would finally get its footing. And when the first season was already some of the most high quality stuff around, I can only imagine how amazing it would have been. I think everyone has that one show that reminds them that the animation industry is just that, an industry. Something created to make money, and no matter how many talented, passionate people sign up for it, for the most part, a business will always be a business. It makes me think of all these projects that have been made or have yet to be made, or that never even got a chance to be made. Projects that have ended because the creator sadly passed away. Projects that go on long after a creator's death. And projects that have all been abandoned by their creators. And then you have something like Sym-Bionic Titan. The creators still want to make it. The fans still want to see it. But circumstances aren't nearly that kind. If you're still here, then you've heard me ramble about this stupid kids show that was made over a decade ago. I'm a very different person than I was back then. My tastes have changed. I've learned more about the world, and I have more responsibilities than ever. So why after all this time am I still thinking about this show? I know to some people it might just be another cartoon, but to me, it's something to aspire to. I want to, no, I need to make something that will make people feel the way that this show made me feel. Art is powerful like that. It can have a great effect on the course of people's life. Every artist has a piece of art that has come before them that inspired them to pick up the pen, the pencil, the microphone, whatever. That's what makes it special. It never just ends once the piece is complete, because you don't know the effect it'll have on the world, not just monetarily, but culturally. And this show is a work of art that has affected people, or at least it sure has affected me. Heart, body, and mind. So yeah, Sym-Bionic Titan is important to me. It's loud, it's scary, it's goofy, it's vulgar, it's obnoxious, it's touching, it's sad, it's funny, it's exciting, it's beautiful, it's revolutionary, it's unfinished, and it's a masterpiece.